Okay, Shaun. So you're a talented young Cairns man, up and coming filmmaker. You've got a few fingers in a few pies and a few projects.
Yeah.
Mate, tell us about you and tell us what you're up to.
All right, my name is Shaun. Shaun Drieberg. Most of the people call me Shadow online. It's my gamer tag, and I'm a filmmaker. Oh, that was an intro and a half.
No, it's true though, mate. Like, see, the whole thing is, um, the thing I love about Cairns, bro, is that some of the things that I do, I call Among Us, and the reason I use that, Shaun, is because there are so many talented people among us who are just like living, they're the person next
Oh
door,
yeah.
and we've got all these achievers we've got all these achievers here, like, the people I've spoken to Olympians, I've spoken to these, high flying academics, I've spoken to world mountain bike champions, and, I'll be, you are one of the Among Us people, Shaun. Like, you're genuinely someone to watch, and I
You're
know.
giving me too much praise.
No, no, no. You're genuinely someone to watch, and I mean that, like, not just as a pun, because, like, making films is what you do, but, like, your career and stuff like that is something to watch. So, mate, yeah, just run us through what you think your most interesting, exciting project is now, and then we'll
Mhm.
go back over the cool and exciting things you've done, because you've already won awards. You've already been recognised for your work, which I think is kind of uber cool.
Yeah, I think my awards are kind of a little bit of a like an over sort of not oversight, what's the word? A little bit overblown to a perspective where, well, the most recent award that I've won was probably Understory Film Festival 2019, which is where I came runner up. I only had 3 days to make that. I wasn't even planning on entering it because I was doing uni at the time. I just saw this random competition that came on because my old teacher used to try to get me to go to it like years and years ago, but I never really put my foot into it because I'm a very big perfectionist and I like to have like a proper set. I like to pay people. I like to have catering. I like to have everything like properly done. But for this one, I decided to make like a small short film, horror film. Actually, you were talking to me before the interview to not plug any of my YouTube channels. I actually do have a YouTube channel with this short film in particular up on YouTube. The short film is called Locked, with Shadow Angel X. That's SHAWOWO. Shadow and then ANZELX. I wanted to be the one filmmaker that had his gamer tag as is like everything. So directed by Shadow Angel X, but I also put my stupid username. But that's just the weird person I am. But anyways, yeah, uploaded it to Understory. Um, Last minute. I wasn't really expecting to win anything from it because there was a lot of talented individuals. I never really put my mantle up against the other creatives in Cairns, nor ever met any of them either or knew any of them. But after that night, I went there. I was dressed up like an idiot. I had a massive coat, and I didn't realize the prestige of the event because there was a red carpet, and there was all these people dressed up in fancy suits, and I'm here dressed up like a character from an anime film, and I'm thinking, what the hell am I doing here? This is ridiculous. Like
Yeah.
I feel like such an idiot. I'm not going to win anything. So then we go in, they do all the films, and I'm looking at all the movies like, dang, there's some really good films here. I don't think I have a shot. And then suddenly I came runner up, and there was a lot of talented filmmakers that night. There was a part where you had to vote for the most popular film. I actually voted for a different film. There's another filmmaker there, Travis Bain. He did a short film called Zombies versus CWA Hall, and that was a really funny film. I loved it so much. And you should go check him out and check out his work. He'll actually be on the story this year, premiering his two films. That's where I'm promoting someone else's films, not mine.
Well, mate, it's it deserves promotion. And of course, the way I found out about you is hearing you sing. So, you're also, besides a filmmaker, and we'll actually show a little bit of those films if you want, as soon as I can dig them up and
Oh,
but you also sing and you're writing these films as well. So, like, you got the ability to produce and direct these films. You're writing them, and like, bro,
so
I
when
can't
I
do it.
so when I went into filmmaking, I mostly specialized in horror films. But then after like watching TV shows like I don't know Glee and some other musicals, I decided to like focus all of my effort on being a triple threat. So that is one of the hardest forms of being a professional performer because it's singer, dancer, actor, and my acting is better than my singing is better than my dancing, but I could do all three. And I think it was important for me because I'm very isolated. Like I say, I live in Cairns, but really I live up in Cranda, Spiwa, which is basically a rural area. It's really hard to get people to like come by to my house, like especially when you're younger, you don't have any money to like, or any accolades, like say, hey, I'm a filmmaker, can you help me with the musicals? So usually I just do clips of me singing, dancing, and acting all on my own. So I'm mostly despite having the professional title of being a filmmaker, I am mostly all self-taught. I learned how to do filmmaking from YouTube because I started off as a YouTuber, and I slowly grew like a small following online doing video game music videos, and that's where I learned how to edit. And I really love the editing process a lot more. And I started exploring software like back in 2009. It was when no, not 2009, 2007 it was Windows Movie Maker. Then everyone jumped into Sony Vegas, so that was 2008 Sony Vegas, and then the year after that was After Effects. And then yeah, I got into the world of VFX, and that's where I kind of like put myself right now, more of an editor director, but I can also hold my own as an actor and performer on stage whenever the time comes, is sort of like how I need to go about. And I think the reason why I went from, and the other reason why I went from like, or went to filmmaking is because I was an artist beforehand. So I couldn't bring all my pictures and my drawings to life because I used to do a lot of hyper realistic drawings and they just won't move and they just sat there. And then being the perfectionist I am, I just compare myself to other people that can do the same thing that I can. So I'm like, oh, well, this is so unoriginal. I want to do something else. So yeah, went into filmmaking. But in terms of like professional experience, despite me owning a business doing videography, I'm very limited in proper set etiquette and being around film sets a lot. I'm mostly all raw talent than actually knowing like a lot of things. And that's why when I go on a film set, I generally tend to ask a lot of questions like, what's this guy doing? What's this doing? Like in theory, I know like all the set roles, but in theory, I just haven't seen them in practice, and sometimes they don't even do the correct practices in the first place. They just sit around on their phones or something like that. I'm exposing too much, but I don't care. It happens. It's whatever for me. I just like to see what other people do.
We'll talk specifically about your, your project, that last movie you made. How did you get, firstly, again, just tell the listeners that, the name of it, basically what it's about, where they can find it.
Locked, the one on my YouTube channel, or the one that I just made recently?
First we'll go on the YouTube channel, and then we'll just
Okay.
made recently.
Okay.
But then, mate, if you can roll into, because like you're doing this on a shoestring budget, okay?
Mhm.
How are you encouraging all these people, and how are you making these things come together with almost no money? Like that's a feat in and of itself.
That's a good question. Originally, okay, okay, this is where I sort of like to differ because, for me, the final project, is generally through editing because that's my philosophy. Like, there is a lot of talented, cameramen in Cairns. There's a lot of talented actors, but I've never found, and this is gonna be big ego right here. I haven't found the right editor in Cairns that could properly do a proper edit. And there's different styles to editing. And for me, I wanted to kind of demonstrate that by using as little budget as possible with literally everything that I create and trying to put out something that looks like it could be Hollywood. 90% of the time it doesn't, but I always like to try to do my best and bring out the best. And going back to the questions like, how do I do it on such a short budget? For instance, for the first film that I did, well, the film that I just recently shot, I was just going to have my friends. They're not professional cameramen, but I have them as my cameramen anyways. But I met one lad on a film set, and he was from Mariba. His name's Ty Thomas. He's a comedian, very talented. But I didn't know that he was a very big filmy person, and I brought him on another film set, and I was very impressed by him. And I invited him again to come on my set for free. It was kind of like a trial thing. I don't know what to call it, but I just had a I just have this keen eye of finding talent, and I knew that when he was doing some suggestions, I was like, okay, I can rely on this guy. I'm going to bring him on board. Next person I had that was in the film was Curtis Lambert. Now, me and Curtis, we've known each other for. I met him at Understory when I first stepped foot into the Cannes like ecosystem of theatrical filmmakers. He was one of the first friends that I made, and then we became even better friends on another film set, and we kind of like bonded really well together on that film set. And it's been 2 years for the longest time. We've always talked about when are we going to work with each other. And it was my film set that we finally got a chance to like work with each other, along with me doing a project for him. Yeah, and he kind of invited himself on the set. I was just helping him to do a small little video shoot, and I was telling him, I was like, I'm shooting a short film, and then he's like, oh, I'll come up and do BTS for you. But then he ended up being one of the most valuable people that I had on the film set because he's more professional than me. He has a lot more set experience, and I was just asking questions like, hey Curtis, how have you been in this situation before? Like, how would I deal with this? And both times for both Ty and Curtis. That was amazing. And then I had the amazing Sue Kim from Cannes. Everyone knows her as one of the best makeup artists in Cannes. She did the makeup for the ghost that I had on the set. She said that she was going to do it for free, and I don't know. And I think the best way to like lump it all together is just we're all friends, and I just asked. Like it's the hardest question to think. It's like I don't like asking for people to work for free. I
But
just
you have to.
I have to. I got no money, and yes, specifically for Ty and Sue, that was the hardest. But for Curtis, he just invited himself on, and for both of us, for me and Curtis, we've been dying to work with each other on a project together for ages.
But
And
see,
yeah.
I mean, you know, these projects are hard, and and I understand. Okay, they're doing it for free, and of course, there's a degree of excitement in them for there too, because they're part of these incredible projects that are actually. But how do you get people to share your vision? Because ultimately, besides self-image, besides a degree, something in it for them, they have to share the vision. They have to, so how do you sell that vision to people? How do you do that? Like, that's cool.
So I am notoriously bad at pitching ideas. I'm more of a show don't tell person because anytime I tell someone the idea, they just aren't able to like reference it to something in their heads because I'm usually very like out there with ideas. So for example, like if I said, "Oh, I wanted to make a vampire TV show, and it's gonna be it's gonna be 8 episodes long, and it's gonna be revolving around these small cast of characters." Like I'll be able to reference it. Like, it's going to be Walking Dead plus Neighbors, but instead of zombies, we're going to have vampires. That's probably the best way to reference it. But for something like this film that I did, I just didn't have any other way to reference it other than I just said, "Oh, I'm just making a horror comedy movie. Would you like to come and join me? I just need some help." And that's basically how I just sold it to them. I think. I said it's a simple idea. That's basically, I wanted something simple and easy. We have a small time limit to film this of 2 days. And for the actors as well. My uncle is the lead actor, and then he's part of the theater groups around Maribu and Canada. He just knows a lot of people in theater. So I asked him if he wanted to be in my film, and that was a whole other experience too, because he's primarily like a theater person versus being an actor. There's a difference between theater and film acting, but he was able to get me some other actors in it too. So I had 2 more actors that joined along. So that was also awesome.
I'm not a big horror movie, but I'm not just saying this. I actually I quite enjoyed that movie. So I can.
Oh, thanks.
Oh no, I mean, we wouldn't be having this interview if I didn't. See why people gave you that award. But tell us about the latest project.
Okay, so the latest project is called 1-800-Paranorman. Basically, it's a horror movie about this paranormal investigator called Tony. He's going to investigate this haunted barn for this woman named Amanda because she's worried that her kids are in danger and she kind of wants to move in. Actually, that's the problem with the film, is that there was a whole story behind why he's investigating this barn. But because of the time constraints of 8 minutes, I had to cut out a lot of dialogue because in my head, this is like the first time I've actually properly written a lot more dialogue than I normally would have. But because of the time constraints, yeah, it's kind of gotten a little jumbled in the final part. But I was still able to get somewhat of a story out of it, and yeah, he goes into the haunted barn and he investigates a ghost. But I won't say anything more than that because I don't want to spoil the film.
Yeah, your agent will kill you.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert.
It's a horror comedy. This time I didn't want it to go so scary. I kind of like blueballed it a little bit and made it like, yeah, it's a comedy as a little less scary. Mainly because during like the, what was it? Understory. Yeah. During the understory when the films were being showcased, I scared a little girl that was sitting next to me. He's like, mommy, I'm terrified. Just like, oh my god, I feel so bad right now. I'm gonna make my next film not so scary.
Well, it's a horror movie. It's supposed to create horror. We've been referencing understory. I know what it is. Could you briefly explain what it is to listeners so that they know what you're talking about?
Yeah, sure, of course. Understory is a film festival that is hosted in Cannes. I think it's hosted by either Cannes Regional Arts or what is it? Tanks Arts Center in Cannes. I can't remember off the top of my head. But basically, it's a short film festival that all the Cannes filmmakers attend. It's you need to make a film that is 8 minutes long, and there was something else. I'm trying to. Oh, yeah. This would probably be the biggest year for Understory Film Festival because there's a prize pool in it. Because the last time I won, well, came runner up, there wasn't a prize pool. So yeah, and I've been seeing a lot of the films that's been coming out, and wow, everyone is putting in a lot of work this year to try and win.
Mate, see, that's the thing. So we're in this relatively small, far north Queensland town that's relatively isolated, and there's a real filmmaking community here.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they're good. Let's talk about that.
Oh yeah. I think the better filmmakers, I'm not sure, are all in Port Douglas for some reason because Port Shorts also has like a pretty next level competition too, and I'm just impressed by everyone. Like a few years ago, it wasn't. I don't think it was like this, or maybe it's because I didn't have my foot in this ecosystem. But yeah, there's a lot of talented people here. I just wish there was a little bit more. I wish there was more help to just support everyone here because for me, I'm actually retiring either at the end of this year from the film world or 2 to 3 months into next year. But yeah, I love that there is now because years ago we wouldn't have had the Screen Queensland building, but now we have a big proper what's it called? Studio film lot. I forget the name of it, but yeah, we have one in Cairns now, and the last two feature films that was shot here, which was Wizards with he's that guy, Pete Davidson and Orlando Bloom, and we also had King Kong as well, also filmed here because I remember they filmed another King Kong movie here a few years ago too. Those were the biggest two, and I think we're having another Pirates of the Caribbean film shot up here as well. And yeah, it's really exciting. It's interesting and exciting at the same time because all this stuff is happening and like barely anyone knows. What can I say? Yeah, and there's just we just have so much talent here. That's just
see that's
just there.
I genuinely reckon this could go somewhere. You know, the unfortunate thing about Australians is anytime we say, oh, you know, this should be supported, we think about government, and without saying government, I'm kind of like limited to how critical I can be, but like you want to be very careful about about getting the government involved in anything because that kind of tends to slow things down and things things get very political very quickly. So they're both bureaucratic and political. Kind of sucks. So, yeah, you know, I think too. I reckon if we went out and knocked on doors, or I mean, the filmmaking people kind of said, hey, look, you know, would you, this company, be willing to sponsor this? You know, if we do some product placement or however it is, we give you some sort of promotional value, we give you some value back. I think people would be genuinely pleasantly surprised at who would get involved in this and and how. I kind of think that's the way forward with that kind of thing. But
Hmm.
back to keeping the interview about what you're up to. So you're going to move out of the film area, I suppose, because you've already got a degree of success there. So what else are you up to?
Uh Basically, just to shadow your point or to follow up on your point on like the government stuff. Yeah, that's one of the, well, it isn't one of the issues that I want to move out of film, but mostly it's like the lack of funding for like just to create something. Because I'm a person that just likes to sit down and just make something like 90% of the time.
Mm.
So right now I'm actually doing a documentary on how to just be like what it's like to be a filmmaker up here in regional Queensland, mostly because I'm up in the regional area, but also in Cairns and the following regions too of like wherever, like Edmonton or Port Douglas. Uh, it mostly follows like what you can do more, because I feel like as much as there is talent here, there is not enough of doing more what you can do. Um, I'm just trying to figure out a good way to put this. Um,
You got to pay the bills.
yeah, you got to pay the bills, and for me, one of the issues that I've had as a filmmaker was like applying for a grant or applying for funding. And I'm not, as you already know, that I'm not the best at like articulating ideas. Like for my short film, I just said, "Hey, I'm making a comedy horror. Would you like to come help me?" I don't think that'll be like the best way to like apply for a grant. It's like, "Hey, I need $5,000. I'm making a horror movie and a short film thing. Can you think something thing?" And I'll use the word thing a lot. And it would be like a probably 3 to 4 month wait. I don't know how long grants take anymore, but I remember waiting for grants for so long, and some of them have caveats that I just want to say nope. I want creative freedom. So I was like, well, issue number one is just to be a pure filmmaker, because most of the filmmakers in Cairns, they all have second jobs. No one, I'm pretty sure like 90%, unless you're doing videography, which is like a different art form of filmmaking, which is like event cinema, like yeah, wedding videos, live streams, birthday videos, or ads and music videos. Yeah, you're not going to be making as much money from doing narrative storytelling films. So that's why you have a second job. So my idea was, oh, why don't I just do something else similar into the field of film, and try and not only be able to like refine my filmmaking work, but also a bit of a self improvement along with like making myself financially stable, while also it not getting in the way of me being a creative in narrative filmmaking. So one of those ways was starting a business through just using my knowledge of filmmaking. So I was going to be doing a kids book series on how to do filmmaking. So book number one would be cameras and lenses. Book number two would be about like script writing. Book number three would be sound, and then book number four would be editing. It's all planned out, and you're gonna say, I know what everyone's gonna say is like, oh, well, you're gonna have to pay money for an illustrator. You're gonna need someone to do typography. You're gonna need someone to do writing. I can do all those things because I'm also a graphic design artist and an artist as well. So that's not too much of an issue for me, anyways. So that was one way, and also bringing that into Amazon and using the what's it called, KDP, Kindle something something. But basically,
Yeah.
you upload it to Amazon Books and make money. Now, I'm very realistic with my goals. I don't think the books will sell immediately, because I'm coming off of this at the back that I've recommended book selling for many people, and one of my best ones, she's a friend of mine. I won't bring up her name because she hates it when I bring this story up, but she makes about $5,000 to $6,000 because she just did kids illustrations. Like I think it was 30 pages of kids illustrations, slapped them all together in a PDF or something, and then uploaded them to KDP. And now she's making 5 to 6 grand a month from doing this book stuff on Amazon. And she works at a petrol station in Sydney. So I'm like, oh, okay, that could be something that I could do in the future. And on top of that, I'm also doing a novel as well, a novella, a young adult novel. Uh, that's also going to hopefully help me in funding, because like I said, I just want to make things, and making something like a book will also improve my understanding of like form and art, because in filmmaking, for me, my philosophy about filmmaking is the same way as it's in art, is that art is color, it's form, it's shape, and that's also important when you're doing photography, because you also want color and form, but also like composition as well. Yeah, composition translates into art, uh, like traditional art, and the same way for music, because music, even though it's a different art form, it has rhythm, but there's also form and composition in music too. So that's how I've been able to translate myself to so many different art forms, because those are like the foundations for literally all the foundation principles for every single art form. So long as you can master those, you can master any different art form. It's just a different technique that you just have to worry about. But as long as you have like being able, like this, for instance, my camera angles, like there's lighting, there's shadow, but you can also, if you take a screen capture of this, that's a photo. And if you take that screen capture of me doing this, and then draw it, that's now a picture as well. It just translates to different art mediums. So yeah, going back to the books, for me, writing a novella, that will also help me improve my writing skills for filmmaking as well. And not just filmmaking, it could go into script writing. I just have to, for theaters, I just have to pivot my style so it fits into what a theater would write, if that makes any sense at all.
It totally does. And it also answers a number of other questions in my mind. Part of the reason that you're able to pull these people together and do these things on a shoestring is because of the skill stack that you have. Now, you know, you seriously do have a lot of talent in those areas, but in the same, I'm not the best podcaster in the world. You're not yet the best actor, director, or anything else in the world, but you don't have to be the best. Everyone's got this idea that you need to be the top of the top to be able to be successful. The thing with you is because you're above average, moderately good at a whole bunch of things, you got a skill stack that you could put together that allows you to engage in this activity. So rather than just being really good at directing or really good at drawing or really good at writing, it's like, yeah, I'm good at all of these things, and that enables them to all come together in this one creative process. And of course, the fact that we really are in this ecosystem. There's going to be, listeners, there is going to be interesting times ahead in Cairns when it comes to film, when it comes to art and stuff like that. You watch, I don't mind going on a limb here. I think there's going to be some cool things happening over the next 5 to 10 years. And I think
Absolutely. Like the art scene has always been big in Cairns, but I think now, because the filmmakers are slowly on the rise up here, I think we're going to be a lot as big as Melbourne in the next few years. I actually recently went to Melbourne, and it was for a gaming convention called PAX. I met someone there at PAX. He was one of the guest panel speakers. He traditionally came from filmmaking, but then he moved into gaming. And me and him had an amazing conversation straight afterwards. I don't want to go into too much detail about it, but we've been talking things, but I learned a lot about how Melbourne functions, and like how easy it is to get a job there for film. And there were some other people I talked to there too, from like messaging and whatnot. And yeah, there's so much opportunity there. But in contrast to Cairns, I feel like Cairns is more of a blank canvas. Like, it was so tempting for me to just leave Cairns and then go to Melbourne, but here I feel like if I stayed, and that's why I've given myself a time limit, like if I can make something of this blank canvas that is Cairns and be one of the people that would, instead of me work for them, people would want to work for me in the future, that'll be a much more advantageous benefit for me here. And since it's slowly growing, I think it's a good time to invest into doing this, because originally, like I actually retired from filmmaking like 3 or 4 months ago. Actually, like this guy Matt, as you guys are now watching, he got me on like the last day of like when I decided, I want to come back for a little bit and see what I've got. Takes lead Facebook, and I'm like, oh, okay, I guess I'm coming back. I kind of enjoy film a little bit. Damn it. And then Matt's like, oh yeah, can you help me out with a podcast? I was like, sure. It's like, this sounds all exciting. And then it only took me to do like one film set with Anthony Ring.
And that's it. So, there really is all these, you've got all of the ingredients that are necessary, and it's just about to hit critical mass. And when it does, you're going to get a small but notable explosion.